somewhat recent, graduate of Indian Hill High School, who, after graduating, ended up moving to Canada for a while, lived in the UK for a while, and while there, learned quite a bit about the perception of Americans. Especially, she noticed how it's colored by how our politics are affected by big money, which affects our culture, and it affects things like movies and shows and newspaper write-ups in the media and perceptions of others abroad of how Americans are. Because we all know that 90210 or Duck Dynasty or Desperate Housewives isn't typical America. But when that's your perception from abroad, or you just see things in the newspapers, or maybe you read stuff online, it affects your perceptions. Whether they're based on reality or whether they're just based on this little bit that you happen to come across. So today we're very glad to introduce Naomi Liebson talking about the impact of big money on foreign relations.
There you go. When it's green, it's fine.
There we go. So I went traveling in my 20s, and I spent 5 years in Montreal in Canada, where I actually got to work with the Liberal Party of Canada. I was in the riding next to Justin Trudeau's in 2008 in a place called Huntsville. And my candidate was Lenny O'Connor, so I wasn't the unfashionable candidate. And everyone got over Justin's campaign, obviously. And I was able, over the course of the 8 years I was out of the country, able to see and get first-hand experience of that kind of perception where word form kind of influence. And I want to talk about a couple of different things. So the first four, these I want to talk about is the attitude to business and business startups, which is very, very different in Europe than it is to here. I'm also going to talk about functioning national healthcare systems and what impact we have on them. And we're also going to be discussing Canadian gun crime. And I'm going to finish up with talking about the legislation that Canada specifically has to put in to actually stop the situation we have in this country. So let's start, first of all, with kind of the last place I was, which is the UK. And obviously the UK, until Brexit is not finalized, is still part of the European Union. The European Union has a very different approach to starting businesses than we do. The idea is that everyone should have the same opportunity, regardless of whether you're wealthy or low income or middle income, everyone should be given the same chances. So there are funds from Brussels, of course. Each country is a little different, but the EU part of it's the same. You go to the entrepreneurial office. This is a government department that every city has, and you go and you say, I want to start a makeup company. And you sit down with the civil servant, and the civil servant says, this is a great idea. Let's work out a business plan. So then you've got a civil servant explaining and helping you write your business plan. And once that's done, he says, okay, now we have to fill out some forms. So you sit there, and you probably spend 2 to 3 weeks filling out governmental forms, and they've got sexy names like 302-B1. And if you don't fill out the correct one, you might not get the money. And different forms have different things. So if you need computers, that's one form. If you need furniture, that's a totally separate form. And so that's why you have a civil servant help you out with that. And you are assigned a caseworker. In the UK, the entrepreneurial office actually had free classes available to entrepreneurs on things like tax structure, how to get around that. They had things like the newest things in marketing, how to utilize Facebook, how to utilize Twitter, food safety rules for people opening up restaurants, software. I mean, it was never ending. Every 10 weeks there was another class. So the step 5, okay. So once you filed everything, you go and you see an entrepreneurial committee. civil servants, none of these are business people, and you pitch your idea, kind of like Shark Tank. And when they looked at the paper and all the papers you filled out and the idea of how you pitched it, they're the ones that decide how much startup money you get. Okay? And this is such a stereotype at this point. It's been turned into a movie. If you watch Trainspotting 2, this whole process is the basis for the movie. That's how much of a joke it is. Now, that's just the European part of it. Each country has different things. You're guaranteed a minimum of 7,000 euro, and after I think 2 or 3 years, you come back when you want to expand and you go through the process again. And you can apply for expansion money at regular intervals once your business is thriving. Now the UK has something called the Prince's Trust. This is run by Prince Charles. It started in 1970. All the royal princes are involved, and they go around asking for money from established businesses to give to young people and people from disadvantaged backgrounds to give them extra startup money. And they also have a mentor program. And in this program, for instance, if you want to start a bar, like we are here, they would set you up with someone who has been running bars for several decades, who knows the ins and outs to give you advice and care. In Ireland, they've got a slightly better system. They'll pay your employees' wages for the first 3 years. So you don't have to worry about whether your employees are going to get paid or not. Germany has 4 different pools. They've got the EU money, there's the state Germany, there's the government of Germany, your federal, your state, and then your local town or city has money. So there's 4 pools there. And the nice thing about this is because you're dealing with civil servants, you can have a crazy idea. And I'll give you one that's in operation here in Cincinnati. If you go to the Kenwood Town Center, there is a company there called Lush, L-U-S-H. And they sell handmade soaps and organic cosmetics, and they use this system in England. In the mid-90s, and keep in mind it was the mid-90s, they went to this office and they said, we want to sell environmentally sustainable organic handmade soap. Now in this country in the mid-90s, if you had done that, no one would have given you startup money, but these people were like, that's crazy, let's do it. And now because of that, they've been able to expand. And when they came into this country, they had this lovely support structure. And that's what we're competing against. So when we see places like Sears and the Gap struggling, the Gap's being taken out by Zara's. Zara's is a Spanish company who have this support structure. It has an impact, and it's putting our businesses at a disadvantage. This system has been so successful, it's being exported outside of Europe. Countries from the Middle East like Saudi Arabia and Qatar are also implementing schemes like this. China is currently experimenting with this on a small scale. And so by not having this sort of structure, long term, it will put American business on a definite back heel. And we will at some point see our competitiveness going out. So these are the new enterprise 5-year survival rates for Europe. And you can see you've got pretty high. It's running around 80% average for survival rates. We don't really have that. So here's some more information. So yeah, 66%, 66% of our small businesses survive their first 2 years, whereas there it's over 80% around. We also have a problem where people are not starting their own businesses. It is too high risk. There's no support for them. Why would you go and take that risk? And a big part of this kind of divergence is that we kind of lost that American, let's get it done. Because that's what this country is supposed to be. You're supposed to come here and be able to do things you can't do in other places. And now it is easier to get the business you want to do and get the life you want outside of the country, and that's not fair. And we have to take that European idea of fairness and redistribute it here, because otherwise, long term, we're going to be at the mercy of everyone else. Our traditional historical American companies will not compete. We're already seeing that happen. So the next thing I want to talk about is universal health care. Now, in 1946, the UK was basically bombed out. They had survived the Battle of Britain, a huge percent of the population was homeless, the current queen was homeless, her house was bombed. Okay, she lived in a tent for the first 2 years. She was married to Philip. So, Churchill immediately called for an election, and he lost. He lost quite soundly to a lovely prime minister called Clement Attlee from the Labour Party. And one of the first things they did is they said, and the British people demanded this, was they accepted that the empire was over. They accepted that they were no longer the dominant power, and they said, let's be humane. Let's take care of our own people before we take care of the empire. And so the National Health Service was the first priority, making sure everyone had free, high-quality health care. That was the most important thing, and as this came about, they realized how sick a lot of the lower-income people were. They understood how bad it was. They had people for that first few years coming in with black lungs from working in mines, from injuries that should have been able to be avoided. This is an institution, the NHS, is one of the proudest things British people have. When they talk about it, there's nothing in their government more proud than the NHS. I had a really good experience. So when I was in England, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. And I'm pretty sure it probably went a little bit different than we would have it here. So I had my diagnosis. I said, I think I'm having seizures, and they said, okay. I was put into an AEG. I got my neurologist. They immediately said, let's get you the best neurologist available. So I was sent to the epilepsy clinic at the University of Newcastle, which is one of the top, probably in Europe. And I had a team. My team included 2 neurologists. I saw one, but the other one obviously worked together. There were 5 epilepsy nurses. I was given a care plan. It was quite intensive. My medication was free. The law in England states that any drug you need for less than 7 days is temporary. It cannot be charged more than £7 for. So if you've got like amoxicillin, the chemist can't charge you more than £7 for it. But usually what happens is you go to A&E. For instance, I had a spider bite. I did a very English thing. I waited until my hand turned purple and swelled, and I went to A&E, and they just gave me the amoxicillin there, so I didn't have to pay for it anyway. But anything longer than 7 days is considered long-term and necessary to your life, so it's free. So you don't pay for insulin. You don't pay for my AEDs. You don't pay for cholesterol medication. All of that's free on the NHS. So you go, you pick it up. The only debate you'll have is, do you want it delivered, or do you want to pick it up every month? That's your biggest problem. My favorite shock was I went to get some ibuprofen, and it was 50 pence. So it's like 65 cents for a full box of ibuprofen. It was brilliant. And I just want to make this really clear. I never had insurance in the UK. At no point. Only about 15% of the British public has insurance. And I actually looked at insurance when I was there. And one of them came with a Fitbit and a personal trainer. Another one covered Botox injections and breast implants. It's really not necessary. It might get you a private room if you've got cancer, but it doesn't really affect the quality of your treatment. And one of my friends actually works for the NHS. Her name's Kylan. She is a midwife, and she's actually said she can't stand people with insurance because their care is absolutely no different. They're just getting a little bit extra of stuff that's not necessary. And going into the NHS is currently under attack. So if any of you hear about Charlie Gard? So Charlie Gard was quite sensational, thank you. Charlie Gard was born at the Great Ormond Street Hospital. which is in London. It is one of the preeminent children's hospitals in the world. And he was born with, what is this? Infantile onset, something I can't pronounce, up there. And basically, he was born a vegetable. He didn't cry, he was having seizures, he couldn't respond to anyone. And there was like 0 chance he was gonna live. And so the doctor told his parents, it would be best if he turned off his life support. But the parents, and I can totally understand this, the parents didn't want to. And they went online and they searched Google, and they found a lovely American doctor who had some brand new, groundbreaking miracle treatment that included lasers that would cure him. Okay. So the NHS doctors looked into this. Well, this had not even gone to lab testing yet. These laser treatments hadn't even been built. This was totally theoretical. But this guy let this terrible, terrible situation explode. And he basically asked them for a ridiculous amount of money, so they started a GoFundMe page. And they did a really easy thing. They called the British press. So this is blowing up. It's getting press coverage. The NHS is horrible because they don't have the money to get this treatment. And it then spilled over here. Dr. Trump weighed in, going, you should give the treatment. You should send Charlie all over to the United States. This is going to court. The courts are aware of what the doctors know. The treatment doesn't exist. This is effectively a con man trying to get money off of people. So they weren't letting Charlie come here. He wouldn't have survived anyway. So after Donald Trump chimes in, the Pope chimes in that they're torturing this poor child or whatever. Finally, after 8 months, the American doctor finally came to Gosh to check out Charlie. And guess what he said? He said, oh, my treatment won't do anything. You should just turn off his life support. That would be the best thing for him. 8 months in the press, 8 months of the NHS taking this battering from the press, saying they're mean and they're horrible. On this side, it's saying that the British government's being terrible for not sending this kid over here for a treatment that never existed. This happens every 2 to 3 years. In fact, the next one just started in the last few weeks, only it's with an Italian doctor instead of an American one. But basically, when people say people are coming here for their health care, don't believe, nobody in their right mind wants to come to this country for health care. Everyone knows it's terrible. Everyone knows, except for people who are like really grief-stricken and have been promised something and are open to that. Everyone knows you don't come here. Even Canadian government, if you get sick in the United States, you should come home. That's how they operate, come home. So the NHS is under attack. Right now, the situation over there is the Conservatives or the Tories, as they're called. They've been wanting to privatize the NHS for decades because it is a slap in the face. It goes against their dogma that socialism is bad, and it is living proof that socialism and social democracy do work. It is living, breathing proof that left-wing ideas function and create a better society. They can also make more money. So moving on, because obviously Canada also has universal health care, they have an insurance-based system, which is very good, but not as good. And I've got lovely anecdotes, but I want to be quick about this. I want to move on to Canadian gun violence. So this is a history of sort of the registry of guns in Canada for the last century. So 1934, they started a handgun registry. World War II, firearms became compulsive. 1993, there was the Massacre des Écoles Polytechniques, and in 1989 resulted in the long gun registry. I actually lived 5 or 6 blocks from the school, and it was something that really did kind of leave an imprint on Montreal long term. Now in 2012, when I was living in Canada when this happened, Stephen Harper repealed the long gun registry. Stephen Harper, was a conservative prime minister, And his whole goal, while he was Prime Minister, was basically to turn Canada into the United States. He was trying to implement American standards on Canada. He brought down Canadian food standards to try to be level with us. He wanted to have the same kind of gun legislation in Canada that we have here. He was trying to turn Canada into the 51st state. And on this one, unfortunately, he got his way. And people were very upset, and people were very angry about this, especially in Montreal where the shooting had taken place. Now, before 2012, when this repeal to Americanize Canada happened, 75% of illegal firearms in Canada came from the United States. 75%. So if someone's murdered, there's a 75% chance that the gun came from this side of the border. Unfortunately, from 2012 to present, when this is repealed, it's dropped to 50% because people don't have to register their guns anymore. And also crime has gone up because there are more guns, they don't know where they are. They're not taking legal protections of them. You're not supposed to have your bullets in your gun. You have to keep them opposite ends of the house. So gun crimes are actually going up as a result of this legislation, and I'm sure at some point we'll lose them. So here's our Canadian guns statistics. So the top, you can see there's shooting, stabbing, and beating. Beating is obviously the lowest. It's pretty difficult to beat someone to death. And you see it kind of zigzags. Shooting, stabbing's usually been higher, but as you can see, was that 2015? It starts to cross, and shooting is now going up, which is not really normal. Even in the UK, there's no guns there. Stabbing is the most deadly thing you can do, which is why they've got British knife laws. You can't bring anything more than 3 inches out of your house. But Canada doesn't have that, so you have to put one out if you want. So this is gun statistics per 100,000 by country. So this is the deaths per year. So you see the United States on the bottom. So the blue is suicide, red is homicide. We're all the way. This is crazy. We should not be that high, but look how high we are. Canada is actually one of the highest. It's on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ahead of us, right? The UK, where I was living, has like on the top there, barely anything. But you'll notice, as you have fewer guns in a society, gun-related deaths and gun violence goes down, and your homicide rates go down. And we can't get this through in this country. If you want a safe country, don't have guns. That's what it comes down to. That's where all the logical countries have gone. And even our suicide rates are completely off the chart there. And so how do we fix this? So I want to talk about Canadian campaign and contribution legislation, because the Canadians actually have the answer. So according to Canadian law, only individuals, not corporations or trade unions, can donate. Okay, P&G cannot donate to a campaign. People can contribute up to $15 a year to a political party. You can also do $1,500 for electoral district associations, $1,500 for leadership, which does not happen every year. Okay, parties do not get a new leader every few years. Justin, I think that was what, 2013, 2014. There hasn't been a leadership contest since then. He's still the leader of the Liberal Party. And then $1,500 for independent candidates. So total, you're looking at $6,000 Canadian per year per person, which translates right now to about $4,606. That's your cap. Justin Trudeau got in trouble a couple of years ago. He had a big dinner, and he took $10,000 per person sitting there, and that was a huge scandal, and he's nearly lost his position because of it. Because you don't do something like that. They have former politicians in jail. I think in the 90s they had a member of parliament go to prison because campaign contributions were too high. And so this is what we need to do. And the fact that just north of us, we have a government that has a functioning system like this. I mean, there's still money in Canadian politics. They still have special interest groups. You still have, if you looked at oil companies, huge influence on politics, but they've mitigated it. and it's much more manageable this way. So that's, I think, everything. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, I'm open for Q&A.
On the King said corporations and unions can't contribute to campaigns, to
All of those.
any.
Any of those. You can't, like I said, Procter & Gamble can't give to anyone. It's a person. The person who owns Procter & Gamble, they can make a donation, but P&G can't.
I know that as I was watching the beginning of your presentation on startup business and on healthcare, a question occurred to me, and I know it would occur to many of my conservative friends, is it sounds good, but who pays for it? Because what you indicated is that the government pays for it. But we all know the government doesn't have any money. It has to come through taxation. So I would assume that that the taxation structure is way different in those countries than it is here. Are you prepared to address that?
Yeah, so I pay about, I think my total taxes in the UK might have actually been lower than they were here. They don't have, you gotta remember, you have your, kind of your local council tax that, that's your garbage pickup and, keeping everything nice and clean. Then you have your federal, which is inland, which goes to Parliament. And then you have your EU tax. It is actually pretty low. There's 900 million people that they're drawing from. They also don't have the overspend on the military that we have. Normal health expenditures about 2% of GDP for military. We're obviously spending a lot more than that. So when you take that down to what's normal, then you can do stuff like this. Europeans don't mind paying their taxes because they get things in return. They don't mind paying their taxes for healthcare because they get something in return. And it's also, we're paying double for our healthcare what they are. If you take what you're paying on your premiums and your medication and everything else, we're paying double what they're paying in taxes for the NHS. We are overspending on so many other things that even if we had slightly higher taxes, it would save us a huge amount of money because it's coming from a larger pool. Peter?
How are elections financed in Great Britain? How are elections financed in Great Britain?
It's similar to here. There was a big scandal with Brexit because the largest contributor to the pro-Brexit campaign was actually not British. He was a crazy European businessman. So they don't have the same level of control on their system that the Canadians do. And it's kind of showing right now with sort of the cracks on where things are going. The Conservative Party's been totally taken hostage by the people giving them money right now. And it's taking the country in a position that nobody wants. So we've got Boris Johnson, who is going to be handing basically the country to Donald Trump. They're looking to privatize the NHS, they're going to dismantle the welfare state. These are things nobody wants. These are things that business interests who have donated to the Conservative Party want. And you're seeing that. You're basically seeing United Kingdom being torn apart from it.
But there's no limit on contributions.
And they've also got the City of London, which is like the international capital for banking with unlimited funding to draw from as well, which is even more dangerous. And that's actually a historical note. The City of London every few hundred years gets in trouble from flooding politicians with so much money and causing problems. So it is kind of a recurring theme within their democratic system.
I had a question about healthcare. Because again, this is perception. So when you're saying that maybe people from abroad would choose to live here with our healthcare system, any ideas about life expectancy rates in other high-income countries and compared to America?
We have the lowest, of all the developed countries, we have the lowest life expectancy. expectancy rate, which I did not put in here. So we are also the only developed country that does not have universal health care. So if everybody else has some form of universal health care, and they're living longer than us, that's kind of the indicator that we should have it. The IMF, which is not a left-wing institution by any means, the outgoing leader, Christine Lagarde, she is from the French Conservative Party. They've been putting out statements for years that universal health care is the only way to run a healthcare system. And they've been saying this for many years now. And we've been going against the IMF. I think the United Nations, like 20 years ago, said healthcare is a basic human right, which we obviously have ignored at our peril. And it's a terrible thing because we're basically killing ourselves for something we shouldn't have to do, for something that should be a basic right for everyone in this country.
It was interesting that you talked about how it should be obvious about healthcare outcomes and why this would be a much better system. But frankly, it's not obvious to a lot of people. And I just had this discussion yesterday with my cousin, who was telling me that he knows a number of people that couldn't get the proper health care in the countries in which they were living. He included Canada, and he included one European country, and they had to come to the United States. Now, I'm sure there are situations where maybe people have not been able to get the health care they needed elsewhere, and maybe have come to the United States. I don't have any firm numbers on that, but the fact is, there's a very strong perception out there that what you're saying is not accurate.
So when people do come to this country, it's usually either for experimental treatment that hasn't been approved in their own country, at which point it hasn't been approved. They have to come here. The other thing in terms of Canada, so there's two ways to set up universal health care in the country. So the first one is an NHS style, which is basically doctors who are their civil servants, and they've got a pension, and they've got a union, and they get their patients or whatever. And the Canadian style is an insurance-based system. And your insurance covers your medication and your glasses and your dentist and all that. And the one thing you need to get from those city centers, there's still healthcare. They still legislate you have to have so many doctors and so much this per population, but it starts getting sparser and sparser until you get to the countryside. And they're always trying to fix this. It's finding doctors to go to the suburbs and to go to the countryside because they're not going to make as much money. They're not going to have as many patients. They're not going to have as much to do. And so it becomes a system where if you want the best health care, you're going to need to live in the city. That's why you look at London. That's why London is so expensive to get good health care. Paris, the wealthier you are in France, the closer to the center of Paris you are. And it's part of the mentality is you want to be by the closest to the best health care. The further you are out in those areas, it's not going to be as good. And that is a hole in the system, and as I said, they're constantly trying to plug it, but that's probably what people are the perception is. Yes, Peter?
Yeah, obviously we're aware that the Tories have been winning against Labour, but I'm just wondering if there's the same kind of poisonous rhetoric about the idea of socialism in England.
Well, right now, okay, first of all, the Tory leadership in England right now has basically turned into a Monty Python sketch. It has. Like, Eric Idle weighed in on Twitter a few days ago and put a dead fish in Canada. Okay. Boris Johnson has been a liability to the British government since the 90s when he got his home. They actually had a desk in the Foreign Office with two people specifically designed to mitigate the disaster from his home, to call up whoever he offended that day. Like this is how big a national embarrassment he is. I'm still in shock because if he becomes the next prime minister, I don't even know.
We all have to change our hairstyle, right?
You know, between him and Trump, maybe they're trying to start a trend. I don't know, but he's supposed to be this sort of delightful idiot, and now he's just turned into a scary idiot. And he'll get along with Trump. Like, given that, nothing he's done in London has actually worked, or it cost way more than he said. So like, he had this flower bridge, which was supposed to be this eco-friendly bridge that you would walk across full of plants. It was going to be very beautiful. This was the British Answer to Seoul bridge. It never got built, but he spent, I think, like 25, 35 million pounds on it. The Bora spikes were actually planned by the previous governments. Yeah, he just took the name. So his buses, the Boris bus, which they were going to sell to the rest of the world, they've not sold one, and it cost twice the money that it was supposed to, and he said the taxpayers wouldn't have to pay for it, but they did. So, yeah. Oh yeah, he's Trump before Trump. And as I said, it's a Monty Python routine. So there's actually going to be, I think, a demo this weekend or next weekend. There's going to be a bunch of activist groups in London and across the UK. I think over in Scotland and everyone. And there is my personal favorite kind of group. It's called Scientists for the EU. And it's led by an incredibly attractive scientist named Dr. Galloway. And he's on Facebook, he's on YouTube, he's on everything, and I highly recommend listening to him, not just because he's really hot, but, you know, his activism takes the form of, you know, scientific experiments. He's a researcher, so he's used to, you know, doing all of the thesis and making your arguments. He's really interesting to listen to. But they're working together with a lot of other groups, and the protest process, which I think is also very different, is when you live, not just in the UK, but I think in most European cities, the right to protest is a really big deal. In France, it's their version of the right to bear arms. They have the right to protest because that's where their country, in fact, our country started, is, you know, killing a monarch and protesting. There's always a demo line. When you go into the center of the town or city, there is an area for a protest. And you go down there on a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday, and there's someone protesting something. And you can kind of sit around and listen. There's a policeman going, yeah, I agree with that, or I'm not sure I do. And sometimes they get bigger, and sometimes they're smaller, and sometimes it's just a crazy person. But there's always a protest on. And the conservatives, a few years ago, they tried to put in this great legislation saying they had to fill out a form to choose people's corner in London. Just to have a 2-page form for a little bit of bureaucracy, saying what you're going to protest, how long you're going to protest, and you have to do a thing. So there's a comedian in the UK, he was like, okay, let's do this. So he filed, but he had the paperwork to show he was legitimately there. While he was protesting, whatever it was, anarchists started coming out. They had not filled out their paperwork. So when the police came, he said, oh, you can arrest me, I'm not an anarchist. I have the forms. So now, he actually has a business where he will protest for 5 minutes for £5 anything you want him to protest. In the most British way of protesting. So he's making money, £5 a pound a minute, protesting for people. And you can protest anything. If you want to protest, I don't know, that people should not wear midriff shirts with tights, that's perfect. You can complain about weapons. He will do it. If you want to protest that the party should be free, he will do it. As long as you have the fight for it. So the protest mentality is always there, it's very strong. And they're also going to do it in a funny way, which you saw with the giant Trump balloon that they did. And some of the highly inappropriate protest signs. Sorry. Some of the protest signs when Trump came for his visit were hysterical, and I can't say them here because they're not very polite. Swearing is the second language of Britain, and some places it's actually the first language. It is. Any other questions? No? Is that it? No. Okay. I'm going to give this over to Deborah.
Thank you. I now have 2 microphones. So thank you so much, Naomi. I know you're right about the financing of the national healthcare systems in Europe, and that when you look at numerical numbers of the cost of American healthcare, it hovers around $10,000 per person per year. And it's around 3,500 or 4,000, approaching 5,000 per person, depending on which European country you look to. And that's not exactly a good
People don't
job.
mind. People don't mind me.
Okay.
They're perfectly fine.
So thanks everyone for coming out or tuning in. And we are probably not going to have a public meeting in August. The football season is starting, so here at the Chameleon, football will be taking over Sunday afternoons, and we will be looking to changing venue and possibly restarting the public meetings in September. So if you're looking to see what's happening, either the third or the fourth Sunday, please check out our Move to Men Facebook page or our Greater Cincinnati Move to Men website for more information for upcoming public meetings. Thank you so much.
So I've heard this, and it's usually from Ontario. Ontario does not manage, each province in Canada manages their own healthcare. And Ontario, for some reason, doesn't do it to the best way. But there is a different structure to a society with universal healthcare. It's this. When you start planning medical facilities by population and not by wealth, the best facilities go in city centers. So like I went to the best epilepsy clinic, it was in Newcastle, and I lived in Newcastle because that's where the best healthcare probably was. And what you get are these sort of rings. So the further